The United States is known as one of the world's most advanced countries, with major cities filled with skyscrapers, modern technology, and millions of residents. Yet far from that bright image, several small communities feel as though they belong to a different world. There is a town where everyone lives in one building, a community that operates without an official government, and even a town with only one resident who still manages every government duty. These are not ordinary small towns. They have strange histories, unusual traditions, and stories that seem almost impossible to believe. Located in the middle of the Mojave Desert, Baker is a small California town that may not seem remarkable at first. It is home to the world's tallest thermometer, a structure about 134 feet tall that serves as the town's landmark and reflects the extreme temperature of 134 degrees Fahrenheit once recorded in nearby Death Valley. Although often seen as only a place to refuel or rest, Baker has a unique identity as a gateway to famous desert destinations, including Death Valley National Park and Mojave National Preserve. Its desert landscape, summer temperatures above 113 degrees Fahrenheit, and rows of shops and restaurants standing in the barren surroundings create an unusual atmosphere. Who would expect a town of only about 2,400 people to become famous for dozens of giant objects that attract visitors from across America? Through the efforts of a local businessman in the early 2000s, Casey began building oversized objects to revive the local economy. Today, the town holds several world records for the largest wind chime, golf tee, mailbox, rocking chair, and crochet hook. What makes Casey even more unusual is that these giant objects are not placed in one special park, but spread throughout the town. This makes the entire community feel like an interactive outdoor museum. Instead of relying on an amusement park or modern attractions, Casey turned everyday objects into unforgettable landmarks. In Indiana, there is a town with a name that sounds like it came from a children's story, Santa Claus. Located in the southwestern part of the state, this small town has made Santa Claus its main identity, not just a name on the map. According to local legend, the name was chosen in the 19th century after residents searching for a town name heard a child claim to hear Santa's sleigh bells. Since then, Santa Claus has embraced the spirit of Christmas throughout the year. Streets like Christmas Boulevard and Candy Cane Lane, a post office that receives letters for Santa, and many Christmas-themed stores make the town feel like a storybook world. Here, Christmas is not only an annual celebration, but part of everyday life. In the Cascade Mountains of Washington, there is a small town that feels like entering another country without leaving the United States. Leavenworth is not an old European town, but an American community deliberately transformed into a Bavarian-style village in the 1960s to save its declining economy. After the timber industry that supported the town began to collapse, local leaders made a bold decision: redesign the entire town to resemble a mountain village in Germany. Today, nearly every corner of Leavenworth features Bavarian-style wooden facades, German restaurants, traditional shops, and cultural festivals throughout the year. During winter, the town looks like a postcard, with Christmas lights and an alpine atmosphere that attracts millions of visitors. In the New Mexico desert, there is a small city known around the world not for its size, but for a mystery that never truly disappeared. Roswell became closely linked to UFO stories after the 1947 incident, when a mysterious object crashed on a ranch near the city. Although the US government said it was a weather balloon, many people still believe the event involved extraterrestrial life. Since then, Roswell has turned the legend into part of its identity. Alien symbols can be found throughout the city, from alien-shaped streetlights and UFO-themed stores to museums attracting visitors from many countries. Every year, Roswell also hosts a UFO festival celebrating alien culture and the mystery theories surrounding it. In California, there is a small town with a fact that sounds like something from a horror movie. The number of dead people there is far greater than the living population. Colma, located near San Francisco, is known as one of America's most unusual towns because most of its land is occupied by cemeteries. In the early 20th century, San Francisco banned new cemeteries within the city and began relocating thousands of graves to the Colma area. As a result, this town, covering only a few square miles, is now the resting place of more than 1 million people. While its living population numbers only a few thousand, its nickname is even the City of Souls. Along California's Salton Sea sits a place that feels like a forgotten piece of the past. Bombay Beach is not entirely a ghost town, but its atmosphere often makes visitors feel like they are exploring the remains of an abandoned civilization. Empty streets, aging buildings, and rusted vehicles scattered around town create a scene unlike almost anywhere else in America. During the 1950s and 1960s, Bombay Beach was once a popular vacation destination for Californians. But as conditions in the Salton Sea worsened because of rising salinity and environmental problems, the crowd slowly disappeared. There was once an American town where circus people gathered, not just spectators, but the performers themselves. Carnival workers, circus employees, and traveling acts found a place they could call home here. That town was Gibsonton, Florida. During the golden age of traveling circuses, many workers spent the performance season touring America, then returned to Gibsonton when the tours ended. The town became known as a unique community where carnies lived together, including performers with appearances or abilities rarely seen in everyday life. What makes Gibsonton even more fascinating is how circus life shaped the town's character. For some people, death is something that should remain separate from daily life. But in one small Florida community, the spiritual world is central to local identity. Cassadaga is known as one of America's most mysterious places because, for more than a century, it has been home to mediums, psychics, and people who believe communication with another world is possible. Founded in the late 19th century by a spiritualist named George Colby, Cassadaga developed into a center of the American spiritualist movement. Unlike ordinary towns built around industry or traditional attractions, life here focuses on energy readings, spiritual communication sessions, and alternative healing practices. Imagine living in the United States but having to cross another country's border just to reach the nearest supermarket, school, or hospital. This seemingly impossible situation is a daily reality for residents of Point Roberts, Washington. This small community sits at the southern tip of the Sawasan Peninsula, an American territory geographically separated from the mainland United States and surrounded by Canada. Legally, Point Roberts remains part of Washington and the United States. However, its location makes everyday life very different. Residents must travel through Canada to reach most essential services, while students attending school outside the community cross the border each day. One small town in Colorado has one of America's strangest traditions, a festival inspired by the story of a man who froze his own grandfather's body. That town is Nederland, home of the unusual Frozen Dead Guy Days festival. The story began when a man named Bredo Morstwell died in 1989, and his family preserved his body in a frozen state, hoping future technology might bring him back to life. When local residents learned about it, the story became part of Nederland's culture. Instead of avoiding it, the community created an annual festival featuring coffin parades, costume contests, and winter-themed competitions. In an era when nearly every place in America can be reached by vehicle, one community still feels separated from the modern world. Hidden deep inside the Grand Canyon, Supai is a remote village with no road access and can only be reached on foot, by mule, or by helicopter. Supai is home to the Havasupai people, a Native American tribe that has lived in the area for centuries. What makes Supai unique is not only its remote location, but also the different pace of modern life there. Mail is still delivered by mule, vehicles are rarely seen, and residents live far from the noise of large cities. Not every town is created through government planning, orderly streets, or permanent buildings. In the California desert, one community developed in a way almost opposite to most places in America. Slab City is often called one of the country's freest and most unusual communities because it has no official city government, no standard addresses, and few of the rules that normally shape a modern settlement. The name Slab City comes from the concrete remains of Camp Dunlap, a military base abandoned after World War II. Residents build homes from available materials, create large works of art, and live under far looser rules than people in most American towns. One of the area's best-known landmarks is Salvation Mountain, a massive, colorful artwork located near the community. Imagine a town where almost everyone lives in the same building. To buy daily necessities, visit the post office, or meet neighbors, many residents only need to walk down a hallway without stepping outside. This small town on Prince William Sound is known because most residents live in Begich Towers, a former military barracks that now serves as the center of community life. Inside are apartments, shops, a school, government offices, and medical facilities. This arrangement began when Whittier was built as a United States military base during World War II. Today, its remote location, extreme weather, and road access through a single long tunnel make Whittier one of America's most unusual towns. What happens when a town has only one resident? In most places, that would mean the town had been abandoned. But in Monowi, Nebraska, one person remains and manages the entire town alone. After Monowi's population declined for decades, Elsie Eiler became its only remaining resident. Remarkably, she is not only the last resident, but also the mayor, issuing business permits, paying taxes to herself, and running the town's only bar. Monowi also has a small library containing thousands of books from her late husband. Although only one person lives there, Monowi is not completely dead. Visitors still come to see how a town government can continue operating with a single resident.